Hello, my name is Laura Galicchio, and I would just like to thank the committee for meeting with me today to discuss my research proposal. So my research question is, within the last 15 years, has the crime rate significantly changed in states that have decriminalized marijuana? So this topic is very relevant in today's world, especially when it comes to public health, and the topic has been debated by many in the past, and it still continues to be debated. So looking at background and significance of this topic, so what does it mean to decriminalize marijuana? So decriminalization means no arrest, prison time, or criminal record for the first-time possession of small amounts of marijuana for personal consumption. But basically, decriminalization is the removal of criminal penalties. So in 27 states and the District of Columbia, they have decriminalized marijuana. So as noted, there's a lot of debate and controversy for those who support the decriminalization of marijuana. So those in favor say that it will boost our economy, including an increase in workforce, investment opportunities, and tax revenue. It'll also benefit our legal system in reducing prison population, and law enforcement can focus on other areas of crime that are more important. And looking at medical treatment, especially in the past few years, marijuana has been used in the health field to help patients who suffer from chronic pain, and cannabis has been seen to have that medicinal effect. And then with safety, since the government would be regulating marijuana, it would have that safety factor that some people are worried about. Now, for those who don't support the decriminalization of marijuana, they say that it's immoral. Just, decriminalizing any drug in general could create that gateway to decriminalizing other drugs that are more intense. Also, an increase in crime, specifically being under the influence, while driving, in the workforce while being high. Also, it's suggested that decriminalizing marijuana would increase overall use, which could include use among our youth. And since there's such lack of research on health effects, we don't know exactly what the effect it has on our brain and mental, emotional, physical properties. So that's also a huge area of concern for a lot of people. So the gap in research. So there are some drawbacks, especially when it comes to looking at the crime rate and, how it relates to the decriminalization of marijuana. So research in general is very limited, especially in post-legalization. So there's just not that much research out there yet. It's more of a new law for a lot of states, and they're still kind of figuring out, how it works in their system and looking at what has changed and all that. And then, for the research that does exist, a lot of it is skewed. And 5 studies will say that, decriminalizing marijuana has significantly changed the crime rate. And then there's, the other side where it says the total opposite. So a lot of it, we are unsure where we stand, which could be another reason why a lot of states have not enacted this law yet, because they're just not sure due to the conflicting information. So another huge gap is the information about marijuana is voluntarily submitted by law enforcement. So it's not, something that's enforced heavily, and it's not, it's not as strict as you think it is. So some of the data just doesn't really exist for some states since it's voluntary and it's not inputted into their system. And then just as a reminder, I put correlation does not imply causation. Basically, that's just good to keep in mind. Just because a state has decriminalized marijuana and say their crime rate went up, doesn't mean that it went up because of, the law regarding marijuana. So there's other factors that we have to control for, which is very important in any research study. So how do we begin to fill this gap? Through research. So in my research design, we'll be looking at all 50 states with special attention paid to states who have decriminalized marijuana. And we'll be looking at their pre-legalization crime rate and comparing it to their crime rate, after decriminalizing marijuana to see if there's a significant change. And we'll be looking at the past 15 years. So addressing crime rate is a big topic in general, but here are some fields that I plan to focus on here. So with property crime, violent crime, drug crime, traffic crime, and other in general. So in the design, we'll be doing a qualitative study with a community approach to it. It'll be one-tailed, and the partners, we're working with law enforcement through interviews and surveys. So we will, prior to all this, we'll send out a letter informing everyone of our decision and just to conduct this study and making sure everyone's on board. And with law enforcement, we'll be sitting down with those and doing interviews and surveys to collect their data as well as their perspective on this decriminalization of marijuana. We'll also be getting raw crime rate data from the Department of Health. And then also to get that community approach, we'll be looking into speaking with advocacy groups, who are focused on marijuana, maybe legalizing it or not legalizing it, and those who have, a strong opinion, and those who know, what's best for the community. So I kind of got some inspiration from this other study that looked at the criminal justice system and its impact with marijuana. And they sat down with law enforcement as well, and they conducted interviews seen in this slide here. So this will be something similar as to what I plan to do, where we'll have, more of the open-ended questions to get the law enforcement perspective, as well as these questions which will be given to, each police department. And with all these results from the 50 different states, we're going to organize this data and try and build overarching themes that we find. And, knowing to ensure reliability and validity in the data analysis and findings, and then hopefully we can find possible and plausible explanations for the findings. So some of the overall goals of my study are to integrate knowledge gained with social change that benefits community members, to increase the knowledge and understanding of the decriminalization of marijuana, build on the strengths and resources of communities, facilitate collaborative ongoing partnerships, and keep open communication that enforces mutual respect for all parties involved. So just some takeaways here for the grant committee to think about. So filling the gap with continued research and review is super important. So, reviewing those research proposals and research that already exists, and, kind of working upon that to fill those gaps. And then also decriminalization in general. The law looks different in every state, so we have to keep that in mind. And the overall goal of my research here is to benefit the state. We want to benefit the communities within it, and we want to make sure that we're satisfying their needs as well, and to figure out, if there is a significant change here and in the crime rates before and after decriminalizing marijuana. Again, I hope you consider funding my research. Thank you very much.